All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Board of Appeals to order for January the 9th, 2018. Could you kindly stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so next on the agenda tonight is the acceptance of the minutes from the December the 12th meeting, which I believe was a regular meeting, right? Not a special meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from December 12th as written.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Ms. McIntyre, second by Mr. Kuchar. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so those will stand adopted. Next is a continued public hearing of the petition of David Cronin for the address of 234 Dale Street, North Andover, Mass. It's my understanding that we have a request to continue that to our next regular meeting of February the 13th, signed by his Attorney Vaughn on behalf of the petitioner. So they signed a time waiver. So if the board is inclined to move that.
I'll make a motion to accept the continuance to February 15th for 234 Dale Street.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. Next on the agenda is a continued public hearing for the petition of Jeffco, Inc. for 197 High Street. I believe there is a signed petition for a time waiver with respect to that.
I'll make a motion to continue it to February 13th at our regular scheduled meeting for 197 High Street.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved and continued. Okay. That seems to wrap up our old business. With respect to our new business, there is a new public hearing petition for the party of Steve Mason for the property of 128 Dale Street, map 37B, parcel 8 in North Andover of the R1 zoning district. Is Mr. Mason here? Okay. Are you presenting yourself, or is anybody with you?
If that's okay.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Just trying to figure out what we're doing. All right, so we need to open the public hearing for you. And let's see, here's the public hearing. Do you open this?
Yeah, I don't have one. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Senior Center at 120R Main Street, North Andover, Mass. on Tuesday, January 9th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. to all parties interested in the petition of Steve Mason for property at 128 Dale Street, map 37.B, parcel 0008, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R1 zoning district. The petition, the applicant is requesting variances pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaw, section 4.136 and section 7.3, table 2, for construction of a two-stall garage within the R1 zoning district. A variance is requested under section 4.136, Watershed Protection Division 3, uses and buildings requirements, C Romanet 2, 3, non-disturbance buffer zone of the zoning bylaws. A variance from section 7.3, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one side setback left in the R1 zoning district to construct an addition of a two-stall garage to the existing home. Side setback proposed is 5.5 feet. The required setback per table 2 is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 24.5 feet. A variance from section 7.3, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one front setback in the R1 zoning district to construct an addition of a two-stall garage to the existing home. Front setback proposed is 14.1 feet. The required front setback per table 2 is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 15.9 feet. Application and supporting materials are available for review at the Office of the Zoning Department located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from the hours of 8 to 4, Tuesday from the hours of 8 to 5:30, and Friday from 8 to 11:30 by order of the Board of Appeals. Albert P. Mansley III, Esquire, Chairman.
Okay, so the public hearing's open. Thanks. So, Mr. Mason, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I'm Steve Mason, 128 Dale Street. I just have a couple of quick opening statements. I'm here to request a variance or variances for work in a watershed overlay district in a non-disturbed zone and side and front setback in order to build a two-car garage and a bedroom extension as described in the variance application that you have. Actually, I also have a prop here if we need it.
I'm sorry, I apologize, I just can't hear you.
Oh,
I know the acoustics in here are really
okay.
not that great, I just
So,
couldn't hear you.
did you hear any of that?
I
can-
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So, so I'm here to request a variance for work in a watershed overlay district, non-disturbed zone, side and front setbacks in order to build a two-car garage in the application that you guys have. I have a poster here that I can point to if I need to. My wife and I have been in North Andover for over 20 years, and I don't have a lot of experience in these kind of requests, so just bear with me. So in order to prepare this package, I did talk to and sought assistance over the past several months from the different departments in the town, building, conservation, planning, and zoning. I tried to put the best plan forward after consulting with everybody, and that's what you guys have right in here. Everyone in the town's been extremely helpful, and I appreciate their assistance. It's my feeling that this proposed work, as represented, does not adversely affect the intent or purpose of the bylaws, which is, quote, the promotion of the health, safety, convenience, morals, and welfare of the inhabitants of town of North Andover. That's all my opening statements.
So how much relief are you requesting for the watershed, all of it? Are you building within the whole watershed, or?
Well, the whole house is in the watershed overlay district. I moved the, so.
Well, it's all right, what do you have? You have, is this something that we already have?
So we have, yes, so we have a copy of this. Yep.
Okay, so there's a vernal pool on the property
Yep.
to the right side of the house. So I put the garage on the left side of the house, outside, just touching the 100-foot buffer zone. That was on advice of conservation and planning. I really can't put it on the other side of the house because of the location of the vernal pool. So that was the only place for me to put it.
So what's there now, a garage? So
There is nothing there now.
What's the existing driveway going to?
There was a garage, there was a one-stall garage there, which is now a family room.
There was a one-stall garage there? I mean,
Yes.
I drove by it, I didn't,
There was a one-stall garage there.
and you converted it to a family? room?
Yes. I wanted to actually add on to that, but I couldn't for the two-stall garage.
How big's the home now?
The home is, it's in the paperwork. Hold on.
I know it's in here, but I'm a little bit lazy.
So this front elevation, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Existing and new is what? The
Yep.
existing square feet is what?
The existing square feet is, hold on. Well, this existing square feet's about 1,500 square feet. I don't have the exact number right here.
1552 on that application?
And then the new is 600 and
616.5?
Thank you.
I knew I saw it, thank you.
Which one are you asking about, the dimensional
I was just curious what the existing was and what the new.
So can we talk about this 4.136 for a second, the watershed protection?
Sure.
Are you, you're proposing to construct in the non-disturbance zone? Is that what you advertised?
It's the, it's outside of the 100 feet. So 100 feet from a vernal pool is a non,
It's a buffer zone on the drawing?
But the
it's a-
vernal,
but that's conservation buffer zone, but then there's a.
yeah, but that's not our discharge, well,
No.
it's
There's a watershed overlay district.
yeah, that's what I'm asking about.
Yeah,
And inside that overlay district, there's various zones. right?
That
There's
is
a
correct.
Non-disturbance zone, non-discharge zone, right?
Right. So, right, and because the house was built prior to 1994,
Which I'm sure your house predates the overlay district, right?
it predates the, well, I'm not sure if it predates the overlay district, but it predates the change to the non-disturbed zone and the addition of the conservation zone for the overlay district.
Right, okay. So when I look at your map, and I'm looking at the lines of demarcation, the 50 feet no disturb and the 75-foot no build, and it looks like you have wetland delineation lines by the triangle, so I'm assuming that those are conservation delineation
Correct.
lines with respect to your wetland area.
That is correct.
Okay. So those are areas, the 50-foot no disturb is the area that's, you may be, your structures are already in, but that's your no disturbance zone. The 75 no build, is that what it is? It's a 75?
For a vernal pool, that's correct.
Okay. But with respect to the watershed protection non-disturbance buffer zone, is that the whole property?
The non-disturbance zone is 100 feet, I think goes from 100 feet out to 250 feet.
Okay. So I see a 100-foot buffer zone. This kind of slices through the red-lined addition towards the corner of it.
Yeah, it's just, it clips the corner in
It
part
clips
of the
the-
driveway, right?
It clips the corner, so my question is, what is that other zone that's outside of the 100?
That is the watershed non-disturbed zone.
That's the watershed non-disturbance zone.
That's correct.
Does it require a special permit from planning as well?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Did you file there? Did they accept
I
your
have not
applica-
filed there. I wanted to see how things went here.
Yeah.
I have talked to Gene Enright multiple times.
So, and I'm not, and I'm actually, this is just a dialogue,
Yep.
because we encounter this all the time with people that want to, in fact, I think we may even have another hearing
Yep.
similar to this. Did you want to file an application with them, or did they not want to accept it?
Oh, no.
How did that-
I plan on filing an application with them, absolutely. And they, and when I talked to her, her concern was, part of it was stormwater management, which I addressed also in this narrative. And she actually liked that because the existing driveway would be removed, which is an impervious surface, and replaced with essentially a surface, a smaller impervious surface that was farther from the wetlands. So it's actually their preference to do something like this.
So usually there's a peer review process with them through their stormwater management
Yep,
that goes out to Lisa Eggleston.
it understood, and I talked to Jean about that, and she actually talked to the town engineer, and she said because of we're getting rid of a significant amount of impervious surface and moving it farther from the vernal pool, she felt that it could go just through the town engineer. It wouldn't have to go to Lisa Eggleston, I think her name was. So, and he was okay with that.
Yeah, so we usually rely on, because it's a variance with respect to that aspect of the bylaw, we usually rely on what the stormwater calculations and/or peer review components are, because that's part of what drives the variance.
Okay, yep,
So I'm just, as it relates to watershed protection district.
understood.
So I was just wondering how far along you are in.
Yeah, no, I
in that
have
process.
the application filled out, I have the narrative, the memo written. I haven't submitted it yet because I was actually waiting to see how this went.
Okay. Fair enough. And you're on sewer, right? That's all sewered
Yes.
over here now? So the proposed garage is, how many feet from the lot line?
5.5.
No, I understand that that's a significant deviation, but
It's tight.
relative to the house that it borders, it's still 200 feet away.
Doesn't matter.
I understand it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I mean, the intent of the intent of the bylaws, right, is to keep the neighborhoods and not make any massive changes, and I understand all that.
Well, the watershed protection bylaw, it
Well, that's
has to do
different.
with the infiltration of the lake,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
So that's why the stormwater component of that
yep.
in the infiltration is important.
Yeah. no,
Particularly when people look, when we, when we're charged with waiving that aspect of the bylaw, and then the planning board is charged with issuing a special permit, that's why I was wondering if they were letting you go forward
Oh, there
concurrently.
definitely, yeah, there's I mean, like,
It's a
when I
little,
talked to Jean, she didn't say, no, this is not gonna happen. She said, yes, this sounds reasonable.
but the planning boards, I don't know what happens at the board level. Once, I know Gene,
Yep.
I understand Gene's role, but that's why I was wondering what happens when you get to the board level.
So you're saying that it should have gone to watershed first?
I was just wondering what they asked you to do, because you need both.
Oh, yeah.
And they're gonna require the stormwater management calcs.
Yeah, no, I actually need conservation as well.
You need conservation too. Well, you're outside of the,
Yeah, but and I was trying to avoid conservation, but Jennifer said no. So she wants me to do a small project on it.
well, but that's interesting in terms of, you may have to file a notice of intent, but it looks like you're far enough from the buffer zones on this side, right?
Well, technically, he would be removing the driveway from the non-disturbance zone within 50 feet,
You're removing that,
which would be a minor disturbance.
yeah.
But of course, this one.
But it's making the back condition better.
Understood.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying conservation, like,
Mhm.
when you have an excavator out there in the non-disturbed zone, they like to know what you're doing.
Oh, no, I
That's probably
I mean,
why.
like I said, I haven't done this in a vacuum. I've
Yeah.
been talking to the town.
So from the elevation components, so your structure and the work is higher than
It's a foot high.
the wetland. I'm just looking at the
Oh,
numbers.
I'm sorry. Say that again?
I'm just looking, so 94, 96, 98 in terms of your elevations. And then, if I'm reading it correctly,
Oh,
from the wetland boundary, right? Yeah.
right, so, yeah, it is. Right.
And then it gets all on this side, so the side that you're on is it looks like an elevation maybe of 104.
Correct.
That's-
It's still a foot higher than the existing.
I don't know, I don't know what that measurement is. 10, okay.
Which I don't like, but. Why does it need to be a foot higher than the existing home? Why can't it just be?
The roof? Why does it need to be a foot higher? The size of just geometry really, the front to back distance of the garage, keeping the same pitch as the current roof makes it a foot higher. Does it have to be? No, it doesn't have to be. It's a one-story ranch, so
So,
I
for
don't
me, my
care.
issue is the side variance. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
not
understand.
comfortable with 5 feet. I mean, because you're adding the 10 feet to the master, and then you're adding, which is taken from that.
Yeah.
So, I'm not comfortable with the fact of 5 feet.
No, I understand. I'm not sure I understand why, because it doesn't impact the privacy of my neighbors.
But your neighbor could come up and do what they want. Their house is far away, and they're not, the probability of them not, but they have the potential to come up on their land and do something, put a shed there or something if they want, and
But they've also, I think, so I have something from them that says they're okay with it.
that they are okay with,
Yep,
yes. I have
and
it
I
over here.
think that.
Did they file that here with the board?
I have.
They do.
I have not, but that was
So there's-
the
there's-
one across the street, but I think that the.
There's two
our neighbor,
emails. There's,
Bill Dubasak had mentioned that he was going to actually call Mr. Manzi.
I don't remember getting a call, but
Okay.
as far as these, the way it works is, with respect to abutters, if somebody wants to be heard, they would have to file, with the board.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so this is interesting because I just we have two emails that have come in Wait a second,
Just one.
just one.
From Lisa
I'm looking at
Schwartz.
two, from Lisa Schwartz, and, which I think is great, right? So they have no issues
Yep.
with the proposed addition, but
That's not that's not.
She's
direct
across the
abutter.
street.
She's across the street.
No,
Well, it's in a butter.
yeah,
But I think what Ellen was exploring was 96 Dale, the people right next door.
Well, the people right next door are 100.
But I was just
And
wondering-
Bill and Mary Dubisak, and they are very much okay with that. I do have something signed from them that I have not submitted, which I can.
they should, anything that should be submitted. But with respect to the email from Ms. Schwartz,
Yeah.
I think that, I think any letter that's gonna come to the board should be signed, you know, whether for or against, because an email, to me, you know, could be sent by anybody. It's not, there's no signature to it. And so I saw this tonight when I got here, and, I mean, it goes to the weight, I'll accept, the board will accept it, but I think that if someone's gonna write a letter,
Yep.
it should be signed, you know, one way or the other, because that way, particularly if they're in a butter,
Yep.
you know. Maybe I'm a dinosaur in that respect. but-
Can I
Crazy
give you
man,
this now? Can I
Sure.
give this to Valerie? This is.
What is it?
It's signatures from 3 other abutters saying that they're okay with the work.
Yeah, I mean, we can accept it, I'll accept it at the meeting, you know, we'll just date it for today.
Yep.
And then, usually they get time,
One of them is from 100 Down Street, which is the next one.
usually they get time stamped at the zoning office, but we'll date it received at the meeting. And what are the addresses? Uh-huh. 133, 100, and 115. Okay, Warren, okay.
So, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So instead of taking that 10 feet that you have for your master, why don't you put it in the back where your master is and just have a garage? So that would eliminate the variance.
So I addressed that in the narrative as well. It's a good question. We looked at that as a possibility. There's a couple of problems, a couple of concerns. One is that we have a pool back there, and putting the master extension behind and keeping the setbacks would put basically right on top of the apron of the pool.
I'm not saying eliminate it, it's taking that 10 feet and putting it in the back, so then you'd have a 15-foot
The-
variance instead.
Oh, so no, it doesn't, the 10 feet is behind the garage, it's not next to the
The
garage.
master bedroom is behind the garage.
Yeah. It's not 10 feet and then 25 feet, the 10 feet is part of that, the width of the garage, it's at the
Oh,
back
okay.
of the garage. So I've already essentially done what you've just said.
No, you didn't put it in the back. So
Well,
why-
I put it in the back of the
I
garage,
understand. I
right?
see what-
Okay,
yeah.
so it's in the back of the garage.
Right,
But
right.
why wouldn't you put the extension to the
It's over
master,
there.
in the back of the house?
Like I was saying, because to keep the setbacks, it'd be like on top of the pool apron, plus the sewer line from our house actually runs out the back. So we would have to relocate the sewer.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Like Ellen, there's 5.5 feet
Yes, sir.
from the property line to the edge of the garage. That's a bit much, but you're looking for a 2-stall garage.
Yep.
What if you were to make it a 1-stall garage?
Then it wouldn't be a 2-stall garage.
What's that?
Then it wouldn't be a 2-stall garage, and then my wife
Obviously.
would have to park her car outside.
Well,
What do you guys do with your cars now?
Yeah, they're parked outside, and I don't know whether you guys were around the last couple of weeks, but it was pretty bad. Yeah, so
yeah,
I
but
mean,
you're still better off than where you
no,
were.
I know, which is why we'd like a garage. Now, I don't know if you guys all have garages.
No
but-
one is debating, okay, the beauty of a garage, but just in quick numbers.
Sure.
The 22 feet, if you were to cut that in half, say 11 feet,
Yeah,
so now you're making the variance 16.5,
yep.
which I could swallow that.
But, so let me ask you a question. I understand that, and of
I
course,
could swallow the 16.5.
it's
okay.
but then it's of course, it's a one-car garage.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. But from the town's perspective, and really, this is, honestly, I just don't know.
And
The
that doesn't affect
impact,
your plans back here either, by the way.
What's that?
And I said, making it a one-star garage doesn't have a great effect on your plans back here, because you get 15 feet of empty space.
No, I understand that, but from the town's perspective, you know, I understand that I'm asking for a lot based on a 30-foot setback. And in the R1 zoning district, which is where I am, right, it's a 30-foot setback. Other houses on the street don't comply with that because they were built prior to the 30 feet, and they can, you know, some of them are 8 feet, some of them are 9, or not some of them, one's 8 feet, one's 9 feet, one's 10 feet for a side setback. So it's not out of character with the neighborhood, I don't think. And there's no impact on my neighbors, really, whether it's 5.5 feet or 10.5 feet or 12 feet. I mean, what is the difference? It's not, I don't have a neighbor right there that's going to be looking at it. They're 200 feet away. And they're okay with it.
I guess one question is, what's driving?
I'm sorry.
I think what they're getting at is, a more basic question is, what is driving the need for the variance to be so substantial? You can't hear me?
No, it's not, this isn't a microphone, these are just for the audio,
There's no amplification in this room.
except my
I'll do the-
voice, if
I'll
you
do
want me
the-
to speak for him, I will.
I'll do the best I can. What's driving the need for the variance? What is the nexus as it relates to your lot that's driving the need for such
the
a significant
vernal pool.
variance? The vernal pool on, well,
On the other side.
what you're calling a vernal pool, but on your plan, which shown as a wetland boundary?
It's a non-certified vernal pool.
Okay, but it's a wetland.
Yes.
right? It's a wetland. So what you're saying is, you can't go out on that side,
Right,
so you want to go out on the other side?
right, yep,
That's what's driving it?
yep.
And the question that Alan had asked about a different, or Alan maybe about a different location, it doesn't fit with the configuration of your home?
No, it doesn't, it really doesn't. And like I said, we looked at, my preference is to put it on the right side of the house. But, you know, Jennifer, in no uncertain terms, said, nah, that's not really gonna happen. So the only other alternative is to put it on the left side of the house. Maybe naively, I thought that the impact to my neighbor is minimal, and since the house is so far away, I understand that, you know, strictly by the book, it is asking for a lot, but it's, you know, it's not that far off from other houses in the neighborhood.
So your neighbor, the signatures that you signed, or you filed rather tonight, the signatures you filed tonight, is one of them this neighbor?
Yes.
Which one? That's 100?
100 is the house that is right next door.
Okay.
Just something that has confused me, and I think that, or putting a point on it here is, according to this plan, the neighbor is the Gilberts.
Yep, they are at 96 Dale Street, and the reason why that plan is messed up, I discovered last night, was if you go onto the North Andover website and you go into the map GIS and you can click on abutters, and it shows you all the abutters by that map, it incorrectly shows the Gilberts as next door as 96 when it's really 100
Well, it
is
says
next
now
door.
a formerly, NF means now a formerly Gilbert's, so as far as the recorded plan that was filed, so was that land subdivided or changed?
It was, those two houses there are, I think, 2 years old, so that land was subdivided
Okay.
with actual variances as well, because they didn't meet frontage and something else.
So there's two abutters there now.
One directly and then one on the other side of that.
Gotcha. That's the 100, and what would be the other one?
96 is on the other side of
96.
100.
Gotcha. Oh, right.
So then the second plan appears to be backwards then. I don't know if you've noticed
Like I
that
said,
as
it was
well,
pulled
between
from the
96
North
and
Andover
100.
website incorrect. I mean,
Pardon, you were talking over me, so I didn't quite catch what you were saying.
I'm sorry, it was pulled from the North Andover map website, So
Yep.
that would be, so yes, that is, as shown is incorrect.
Well, the plan's incorrect, the abutters list, the notice was correct.
Yep,
So
notice
it's
is
just,
correct.
it's just your plan.
So I'm just going to be another country heard from. I'm actually, I guess, pleasantly surprised that other board members are equally stricken by a 5.5-foot setback here. I'm gonna beg to differ with a couple of your characterizations. One of which is, there's not much difference between 5.5 feet and 10 feet or 9 feet or 8 feet, and I would suggest to you perhaps that's true on a, there's only 3 feet or 2 feet or 1 foot difference, but as a percentage, it's an extraordinary difference. And the difference between 10 and 5 is 100%. So that's a challenge mathematically, and as a principle, 5.5 feet, single digits. I think that's something that I've used. Some of my fellow board members may be tired of hearing me say single digits is almost an impossible hurdle for me in these kind of things. The only way that I can see my way to this is I am sympathetic to the location of the neighbor's home. Certainly, there's a very big they're a long way away. So there's nobody that's you're not peeking into anybody's bedroom, as a for instance, which is something that oftentimes troubles me. But at the same time, in order for this construction to be had, the tree line is eliminated on your property. So the buffer from the neighborhood, from the street, from the guy next door. I know you're not looking into a bedroom. We've already established that. But the tree line is eliminated, which of course you're free to do as of right. But in the totality of an application, in the totality of appreciating why setbacks were set in the first place, and 30 feet is certainly an arbitrary number. I appreciate that. I'm sure there was a reason for it when the zoning bylaws were set. But as arbitrary as single digits is, so is 30 feet. So we're never really going to get to a full, I guess probably as rational a conversation as we can, because they're artificial numbers, quite frankly. So we're working in that universe. Nonetheless, the orientation of the house is pointing at the road. So in a sense, the set, to me, the one of the purposes of the setbacks is privacy. It doesn't feel like there's an awful lot being compromised here. So I end up kind of on a hamster on a wheel, just saying, boy, do I have a tough time with single-digit setbacks.
Can I address?
Absolutely.
Let me address the tree
I
line for a
appreciate you
second.
waiting your turn.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, I don't know whether you drove by the house or not.
Yeah.
But if you look, there's a stone wall between my property and the Dupasak's property. And that stone wall, if you're facing my house, to the left of that stone wall, which is their property, there are a bunch of trees.
Understood.
And on my side, there are no trees. What there are is there's about 30 feet of juniper bushes, and then in the front, I'm not gonna say there's no trees, there's about 5 trees between 4 and 7 inches in diameter, maple and oak, and the rest are like seedlings, 1 or 2 inches in diameter. So getting rid of the tree line, right, it's really minimal, because there is no real tree line, it's bushes.
Yep. It's minimal today, but trees grow. I'm another one of my pet issues, in addition to single-digit setbacks, is trees. Cutting down trees is meaningful to me. Cutting down mature trees stops my heart. Pulling up some seedlings, pulling up some saplings, I get it. Today there's no big deal, but in 25 years, those seedlings, those saplings are going to make a big difference. The second element of the argument that you're proposing is now privacy screening, now trees are strictly the responsibility of your neighbors and they're no longer yours, so that argument just doesn't feel right to me. I get that if as of right, you can cut down all your trees. So tomorrow you can cut down all your trees. I get it. But that's kind of not the world in which we live, and it's certainly not the application that we're looking at today.
So you're strictly talking about between my lot and my neighbor's lot, as far as trees go, not any kind of landscaping that I
As
might
far
be
as this-
doing at the front of the house.
As far as this application goes, yes, I am focusing on the vegetation buffer between the two properties, on the two properties. That's all I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah, I guess I would ask you to drive by the house and see the vegetation buffer that's there now.
Yeah.
And it's not really much on my side of the property.
But I mean, somebody was making an effort on your end. I mean, you said there are junipers, there are maples, there are trees, there is vegetation in that space. I mean, it's certainly not desert land.
No, it's not desert land. Yeah.
So somebody was making an effort to plant some trees there, somebody was planting some greenery there, somebody was looking to something other than mulch or pine needles. So I guess, we're perhaps talking past one another. You're trying to say that whatever's there, Mr. Board Member, it's kind of irrelevant, doesn't mean anything. And all
Yeah,
I'm suggesting is that I think it does.
So,
And
I mean,
we
if-
just might be on opposite sides of that particular.
I don't want to say that it doesn't mean anything. It seems that right now it's kind of wild there. It's, a lot of the seedlings or saplings or whatever are probably, I'm sure were not planted. I have no problem with having to plant bushes along that edge if that's going to help. I mean, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. I mean, I want to be as flexible as I can. And as far as the 5.5 feet go, I understand, from a percentage, I can't argue with the numbers. But again, I'm trying to find out the intent, and I didn't really get an answer before, but, what the intent of the bylaws is what? I mean, what's the purpose? Is to provide some privacy to your neighbors, right? Is to not change the character of the neighborhood. And I don't think that regardless of whether it's,
The intent sets the builder's envelope.
excuse me?
The intent of the setback sets the construction envelope, the builder's envelope.
Yeah, I understand.
That's effectively what it does.
Because you want to set some character to the neighborhood, you want to offer some privacy to your neighbors.
And each zoning district seems to have different
Yeah.
setbacks, right?
I mean, right, each district, right, so you go to the library district, the setbacks are a lot smaller.
So can I ask, what would you do with the garage that's currently existing?
There is no garage currently existing.
He turned it into a family room. That's the Zillow that I pulled up,
Yeah,
still has it as a garage.
okay.
The what? that you put
Zillow?
up?
Oh,
Oh, Zillow.
Yes, it's still a garage. So it looks like there's a fence there as well. So is that since gone?
There's no.
So you converted
Fence.
a pre-existing garage into a family room?
Yes, there's a fence where,
On the property line?
there's a fence on the pool, yeah. Yeah, backyard fence.
Yeah.
So you took an existing garage, you made it into a family room,
Yep.
and now you want to come back to us and add a two-stall garage on the other side of the house.
Well, I wanted to put a two-stall garage on that side of the house and not make that a family room. But I couldn't.
Why wouldn't you put the family room on that side and keep the garage on the other? And go back from the family room to the garage?
Because I would like to have a two-stall.
It sounds like you're
garage.
creating your own hardship.
Well,
No, you can't put the family room on, it's the bedroom side of the house. The family room's in the north house.
I see it. But you don't get the flavor, we're all pretty upset over the 5.5 feet to the property line.
yeah,
It's not like me, her, or him. It's like a unanimous thing.
I'm not as upset over the 5 point, I mean, I appreciate what Mr. Kush is saying, and I respect what Mr. Kush is saying.
Oh, that's a change.
All right, take it back, but I get his point.
yeah, no, I don't
But
want to
there's a lot of
anybody.
there's a lot of competing interests with your property,
Yep.
because, 5.5 is, it's significant in the context of what this board hears.
Mhm.
The single digits are significant. Is it mitigated by the fact that your direct abutter, doesn't necessarily have a problem with it? Maybe, maybe not, maybe. But I think the stormwater component also is something that, is at play.
Yeah, and doesn't that?
Because
I
we
mean-
don't know how that's being mitigated yet. We're a little early on in this process, as you are, in terms of if we set a footprint, which we don't know what the stormwater component of that is yet, as it relates to that variance.
Yep, so let me ask a hypothetical then. So, when I don't do anything, right? And I leave the driveway where it is. From a watershed aspect of it, we're worse off than if I was to get rid of that driveway and put a garage on the other side.
Why would you say that? That's what's existing there now.
Right, but it would be an improvement if I was to get rid of that.
And
But you're gonna decrease something, I mean, you're thinking that if I get rid of the driveway and I'm gonna put 5 feet, this 600, square foot
But from the water,
structure.
I'm just saying from the watershed perspective.
Well, we need reason, we
That
need
just
reasons.
Makes sense to me, sorry.
To grant variances, I mean, so there has to be a nexus rooted in the land, in theory, in terms of what's driving the request for variances.
Right.
I can see how you got all these wetland problems on one side, and I can see how it's driving what you want to do on the other side, whether it's self-created or not. I mean, that's your application. You're saying, zoning board, I want to do this, and but for all these other conditions on my property, I can't do it. And that's why, I'm asking for relief. But what I don't know is how the stormwater component is going to affect what it is you're trying to do, because that hasn't been designed yet.
Okay, so what are you suggesting? I mean, so again,
I mean, that's just, so, that's kind of where I am on it.
Yeah.
I hear other people saying other things about, the distance, and I don't know if it makes any difference if your abutters come and speak in favor of it or not, if that has any significant weight for anybody.
Did anyone advise you to keep your proposed footprint outside of the 100-foot buffer in terms of the various departments of the town? Because what I'm identifying here is that it looks as though you've intentionally done that with this kind of bump out of your garage
I haven't
from the
intentionally
existing
done
house.
that. You're right.
And I think there's some, if there's other departments that are requesting that, I'll let you answer in a second, but if there's other departments that are requesting to be outside of the 100-foot buffer in entirety, I think those interests kind of compete dimensionally with what this board is after, which is the easy thing to do to gain 3.5 feet is to just shift the garage over tight against the existing house,
Yeah.
and you don't really lose any program that way.
Yeah, no, and certainly that is an option. I think that is an option. There is nobody in the town, Jennifer Hughes did not say you have to keep it outside 100 feet. I think that, moving it over the 3 feet, it would be 3 feet inside the 100-foot buffer. From a conservation perspective, just my opinion through my conversations is that, she would be, that's something that is doable. So I would not have any problem with moving it over the 3 feet.
You're inside that 100, but you're outside of the 50, so you can still
It's
likely-
actually, yeah, it's a 75 for the vernal
75.
pool, but,
75 for the watershed area?
well, so vernal pools, because they're breeding grounds for
Well, that
whatever
increases
they
it.
are breeding
I mean,
grounds for.
to Paul's point about percentages, and the percent of like 97 feet versus 100 feet from their world is 3%, and in our world, we're
That's why I
talking-
think that she would be,
Right.
Certainly that's a workable thing, and I would have no problem with doing that. And you're right, it was deliberately bumped out 3 feet to stay outside of the 100 feet, so I wouldn't have to go in front of conservation, but since she said I have to go in.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but I have to go anyway, you're right.
the other point I guess I would just throw out here to the group is that, I mean, you could take actually a better garage that will actually fit 2 cars, and actually put it behind the house, in my humble opinion, and like not even have to come before our board, because it would fit within your side yard setback, it would fit within the rear yard setback, and it would fit not disturbing your existing pool, even with a little planting buffer there.
Well, so It wouldn't fit in the problem with, I'm not gonna say it wouldn't fit, but it would fit, but again, it'd be bumped right up against that concrete apron that's shown for the pool. It'd be kind of sucky for the summertime to have the garage right there while we're out by the pool, but.
Not to my scale, but,
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
I mean,
so, yeah, in fact, though, that would actually have a greater impact on my neighbors to move it back rather than where it is. Even though, you're right, it'd be compliant, it would affect my neighbors more. So, again, I mean, that 3 feet, or 3.5 feet, like I said, I am totally open to that.
So the way variances work, just procedurally, so you know, if you've never done this before,
Thank you.
they require supermajority votes. So we're technically a 5-person comprised board with
Speak up.
3 alternates. So you need 4 out of 5 votes for each variance to be approved. That's how they work. Just so you know, because I didn't tell you ahead of time. So I don't know how, your neighbors are in support of a plan as you've presented it. I don't know if there's any other plan that lessens the need for variances that your neighbors would still support. So that's, I don't know how far you go in that discussion or not. I mean, they supported what you proposed,
Right.
but
And I'm actually not sure if I was to move the garage back that they would support that, because it is closer to their house.
But as far as the board goes, I would, notwithstanding the watershed protection variance.
Yep.
They would all require, 4 in favor. So that's how it works procedurally.
Got it.
Is there anybody here from the neighborhood for this application? Who wants to be heard? Did you want to be heard? Did you want to come up and talk about it? I can't hear you. I don't know yet. We haven't gotten that far. We're still doing this hearing. So if you wanted to be heard, you could just come up present yourself. If you're in a butter.
I'm not in a butter. I'm in the neighborhood, I was sent a letter, so that's why I'm here.
If you get a letter, you're in a butter. That's how that works.
Nice to meet you.
All right, well, I hope so.
Yeah, so I'm Dave Rutter. I live at 45 Barrington Place, which is just behind
Okay.
Mr. Mason. Not really behind. Actually, between my house and his house is the Berets.
Yeah.
And so at 100 Dale Street, where the new houses were built, there's 2 new houses set way back. So I'm just setting the scene for you, but,
You're behind him?
sorry?
You're behind him on Barrington? Is that right?
Yeah,
That's right?
yes, on Barrington.
Yep. All right.
So I look through the Beret's house straight to Mr. Mason's house, is where mine is,
Okay.
looking towards the south. In essence, my wife and I were opposed to the variances being granted. We feel that the barriers and the setbacks and so forth were created for a reason. We're staunch advocates for protection of the watershed in Barrington Place, and we have a sign at the entrance that says "No Salt Zone." We don't want the streets salted at all, so we get by just fine.
But that's probably because conservation made them put it up
And I appreciate it.
when that subdivision was permitted, right?
Yeah, I was the last house to move in, so that was all in place before we
I
moved
mean,
in.
you guys didn't put it up. That's
No.
pre-existing.
No, the town did it,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, or required it.
Yeah.
So we're all for protection of the watershed. And my wife is, she moved here when she was, 60 years ago. She's a FANF.
Yep.
So She knows what happened with the development around Lake Kachikowik, and then the sewage treatment plant in Giardia years ago. So we don't want that to happen again. Now, this is a small scale, but...
Well, with respect to that,
Yeah.
because I remember that too, there was no sewer around the lake in those days, and there was an older water treatment plant.
Yeah.
So a lot of that's changed, right?
I know that.
Yeah.
At great expense to the taxpayer because of the encroachment in the Giardia that was created.
Well, the betterment with respect to the sewer was
Yeah.
a significant expense to the landowner.
Sure.
But I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
I'm not here to discuss that point,
Yeah, well, I just, since you brought it up.
okay? So I think Mr. Mason moved into the house just a few years ago. Okay, yeah, welcome. So moving into a house, a property with these known setbacks and everything like that was something that the buyer was aware of and probably knew that the constraints would be there when they bought the house. I'm not an architect. Roof heights, I don't care about, but encroachment is something I'm staunchly against. If the garage can be turned 90 degrees, create like a little courtyard, like some of the other houses in town, I don't know, move it forward some, I don't know, towards the street, that's fine. But back to 100, to Alexander's point, 100 Dale Street, where the new houses were put in, there was some nice, tall, southern yellow pines there, I think they are, that were cut into. And now, since that was cut into, the degradation of the rest of the remaining trees is severe, to the point there's trees dying that are standing there dead. And so cutting into the foliage is something that is also should be protected. The Berets, my neighbors across the street from me, aren't here tonight, but they had 100 Dale Street built, and that is just in their backyard. So I'm not going to keep saying the same points over and over again. I'm just here to say that I'm against the granting of the variance.
You're against it, you're sort of on the fringe though, right? You're, in terms of, you're in Barrington Place, that's a new subdivision. It probably was cut in.
Yeah, you called me here as in a butter, so.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine, no,
but
I'm
I
trying
am-
to, I'm trying to orient myself.
I'm probably 200-300 yards away.
I'm trying to just orient myself to a picture.
Yeah.
That
Want
shows.
me mark it?
Yeah, that'd be great,
Okay.
be helpful. In terms of, right? This would be the subject property,
Yeah, so this is the Berets
Yeah,
here, and
yeah.
I'm right over here.
and you're over there.
Yeah.
So you had, you can kind of see through the yard, right?
Yeah, and I know that when the foliage is off like now, I know there's no buffer really, except the trees that are there. I know there's a huge
Oh, thanks.
sighting into their
Yeah.
property here.
Okay.
So where's your house?
Right there.
It's sort of off, so what he's pointing to an area that's sort of off this map,
Okay.
not depicted, but still statutorily within 300 feet.
away from the berries, so not this property?
I'm right where the X is.
Yeah.
I'm right where the X is.
Can you help me out on this one?
Yeah.
Which are you?
Oh, yeah.
There's the subject.
There I am. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and just, was this property here when the subdivision went in? It was cut in, it wasn't created after the subdivision or before?
Which
Barrington
property?
Place.
This is an older property.
This is an older
Oh,
property.
yeah, that's been there. You know how old your house is?
1956.
1956, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. It helps to understand where everybody is. I'm sorry, did you see?
Thank you.
All right.
As soon as you said it. Yeah. I got it.
All right,
I saw it.
anybody else?
I saw it. Yeah, no.
Well,
Again,
what is it you'd like the board to do tonight? Are you interested in closing your hearing tonight? Are you interested in seeing working on the
Well,
stormwater component.
Yeah, so, I mean,
We have a plan that's sort of not, needs to be fixed.
Yeah, so ideally, what I'd like to get out tonight is to know whether I should move forward or not with the watershed special permit.
Is this the plan that you want to present to them?
That,
Is this what,
w-
would you make any changes to this plan?
you know, the only change I might make is to move it to 3 feet over.
Well, I mean, I think with respect to the watershed special permit component, we don't have enough information as to the
But here's the
impact
thing,
there.
Al, that's extremely expensive, and I understand that. So
Yeah, it is.
why would he go forward if this board, you know, I understand it's the catch-22.
I wasn't
That's
that-
my, that's my
Very
point. I mean,
difficult,
if
and I
this board,
understand,
right,
yeah.
this board's not gonna,
But on the other hand,
She
not
stole
for
my
us
thunder, but, you know. I
to
was-
make a
I was
decision, of course I always do, in order for us to make a valid decision, that's a part of what we need as well.
understood.
So it's a very difficult position that you're in, which.
But you
So
don't
you-
know what impact the stormwater component is gonna have with your design. That's the other aspect of it, you know,
Yeah, I mean.
and how that.
So I'll
lot-
ask a silly question because I'm not, I
You
don't
know?
know about the process, but what about?
You got issues with the 5 feet. I mean, that's clear. You know, there's people that have concerns about the extent to which the dimensional variance that you're requesting, notwithstanding the support of the abutters. Whether they give the abutters weight, if the abutters come to a next meeting or not and talk, I don't know. And then, so there's that component, and then there's still that stormwater component. So it's almost like you got a couple of different areas to address. If you're interested in trying to address them and continuing and come back to another hearing, you can ask the board to do that. If you think it's not worth trying to address anything, that's up to you as well, but that was the feedback.
Yeah, so I don't mind coming back if I know what I'm coming back for. I guess that's what I don't understand. You know, if it's the watershed, for instance, if you were to say right now, Steve, if you move the garage over 3 feet, chances are that the setbacks will be granted. We'll just be waiting on the watershed. I would say, okay, I'll go ahead with the watershed, and I could come back and with a new plan showing it moved over. But if you say the chances of you getting it are 0, then what am I going to do?
Well, it sounds like what you presented, maybe more than one person has an issue with in terms of the dimensional setback. If there's an alternative plan that you can work on that might be more that people might be able to buy into, that's something that we can afford you the opportunity to take a look at.
Yep.
You
No,
know-
I understand that. And
And I know that's only one aspect of it.
Yep. If I didn't have the pool, I would put the garage in the back of the house.
Um,
But again, in order to keep this, I would still need the variance because I think to expect the garage to be right up against the pool area would not be
Yeah, but maybe,
acceptable.
maybe it's not 5 feet that you need, in terms of what the design is. Maybe it's,
Well, like I said, I mean, it easily could go to 8 or 8.5 feet just by getting rid of that bump out.
The other thing I didn't comment on earlier, but I'm sort of realizing more as I look at this is, I mean, you could sort of shift the whole garage just orthogonally back away from the street, which would, I mean, we were all kind of harping on the 5.5 foot dimension on the side, but in fact, your front setback dimension here is 14.1 feet, if I'm reading that right. So that seems really tight to me, actually, in the character of the neighborhood. I actually believe that the front I mean, call me crazy, but I think no one's actually gonna, to your point, if your neighbor's 250 feet away, 200 feet away, no one driving around not looking at a drawing is going to realize that the new house is only 5 feet from the property line. What they will notice is that it actually comes toward the street, comes closer to the street than your existing corner of the house does by 50%.
Yeah, it's still 30 feet from the street.
From the, well, I'm All I can talk about is a property line.
I understand. The property line, which I was trying to understand how the property lines are set, because it seems to be variable. I
Your
mean,
property line's your property line. We're
Oh,
not-
I get that,
can't
but it's
just-
still from the street, it's 30 feet, and that's why I'm requesting a variance, but I understand your concern.
That's my point, is like, if you shifted that back further, I think that would actually help me with the character of the neighborhood, even more than going to the 8 feet.
Yeah, so the problem with that is that so the bedroom at the back of the house is at the back corner of that house, right? And right now, the width of that is 13 and a half feet, which is basically, I'm taking that 13 and a half feet and extending it out 10 feet. So now if I move that garage back, I'm basically, I mean, there's no way to get to really connect that room to anything that would be at the back of the garage, and then we're back to putting the extension at the back of the house, which is, at that point, again, it would require a moving of the sewer line, which comes out of the back of the house, unfortunately. And the bulkhead and whatever else is back there. So, I mean, I did consider, I was told to present other plans. I mean, I considered other options. Believe me, I did.
Sorry, it's just helpful if you put the bulkhead on your drawings and just like make sure that all the information's there.
The bulkhead,
The bulkhead's on the site
Yes.
plan, but it's not on the architectural plan, so then
Yeah.
it becomes confusing for us to just quickly understand what you're doing. But I think I'll tell you then, I would be more comfortable with 9 feet, 5.5 plus 3.5, with 9 feet. I think that goes more in keeping with some of the neighborhood dimensions that you brought up.
That is correct, that is true.
And if there's any way you can finesse things to push it back, I'd be in favor of that. Speaking for myself.
You know, the character of the neighborhood too is something that I think you mentioned early on, that what you were proposing was somewhat in character with the neighborhood. And Great Barrington, I understand, is a definitive subdivision, and their layout is a little different. But it would be interesting to know what other properties would be, similarly situated in that area in terms of what you're looking to do.
Signs like that?
Yeah.
Essentially all of the original properties, which are the ones on the opposite side of the street from me.
And so, yeah.
But they're not before us, so.
Yeah,
But
but
they are-
but I mean, it's
and
just
they're
for,
the abutting properties on the opposite side of the street have similar, they're pre-existing.
Just one.
Well, it might be helpful to have a better understanding what they look like, as far as that neighborhood goes. I don't recall off the top of my head.
Well, Mr. Chair, the board has a history of not necessarily polling in advance. It doesn't necessarily have a history of saying what actually gets them to a yes. In my eyes, it's kind of up to the applicant to read the board, what the board's needs are and where the board is standing. And I don't see a reason to depart from that practice today. But in fairness to the applicant, I have to reveal that my heart stops at single-digit setbacks. That doesn't mean I'm in great shape when we get to 10 feet, when we get to double digits. It doesn't mean that I'm doing anything better than hyperventilating at 15 feet. So I guess, again, in fairness and not necessarily defying pre-polling or anything, but it's going to be really hard for me, even in the totality of the stormwater or a design or the front setback or the placement. It's going to be real hard for me to get past the 5.5 feet, even should that become 9 feet, which has been suggested is in some character with the remainder of the neighborhood. In some character with the neighborhood, and not having driven by the entirety of the neighborhood, certainly it speaks some to me, but once again, not necessarily dispositive. So I'm not here telling you or telling the applicant what he should be doing with his, but for me to get closer to an approval is going to require probably a substantially better setback than 5.5 feet. And that's probably substantially in both an absolute number and a percentage. Since I was the guy niggling at percentages earlier, I might as well declare that.
Percentage of what?
In absolute feet, so just, whether it's 20 feet or 400%, I just wanted to make clear that it's going to need to be substantial in I think both regards.
Okay.
Can I suggest something?
I keep an open mind. Yeah, let me just, I keep an open mind with these things, so I'm not hung up on any one particular aspect of what you want to do. The abutters, I think in your situation, for me, have some weight in the context of they're the ones that live there. So, I can see the hardships with respect to one half of your property. Could you have a better design? Maybe. But to the extent you want to work on it some more, I have an open mind in terms of what you're looking to do, absent anything new or compelling that would cause me to think otherwise. I understand what you're trying to do, so from where I sit, you definitely have some hardships on one side of your property. So, I get that. I think there's more to do. So.
My opinion is, I think you get a flavor of where this board is going right now. Okay, you want to go, instead of having a gun to your head tonight, you want to continue it for a month, take what everybody has said up here, digest it, and come back at the next meeting and see if you want to go forward with it, instead of us wasting another hour's worth of time going back and forth over nothing.
Okay, yeah, well,
All right.
appreciate that. I don't think it's nothing because I've learned a lot.
Okay? I mean, we're just wasting time now with the same argument. I think you got a flavor of where the board is going. If you want us to close the hearing and vote on it today, we'll do that. You want to continue it for a month and gather and see what's going on and run things back on your mind? Maybe that might be the better thing for you.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we continue this to the next monthly hearing.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so stand continue. Okay.
So you are Mr. Consolie?
Yes.
Okay. Bear with me for 1 second.
Can you
Okay.
shut the heat to get rid of the noise?
It's encased.
My house in the summertime isn't this hot.
It's good.
It's not the heat, it's the hearing.
Okay, so next we have the petition of Michael Consoli for property at 35 Meadowwood Road, map 25, parcel 24, North Andover, Mass, in the R6 zoning district.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Town Hall located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Tuesday, January 9, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. to all parties interested in the petition of Michael Consoli for property 35 Meadowwood Road, map 25, parcel 24, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R6 zoning district. The petitioner is requesting a special permit from section 4.125.16 of the zoning bylaw conversion from one family to two family in the R6 zoning district is required from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Application and supporting materials are available for review at the Office of the Zoning Department located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from the hours of 8 to 4, Tuesday from the hours of 8 to 5:30, and Friday from 8 to 11:30 by order of the Board of Appeals. Albert Humanz III, Esquire, Chairman.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Consoli. Floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman and board members, Happy New Year. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening. My name is Michael Consoli. I live at 35 Meadowood Road with my wife and 2 young children. As you know from the application presented, my wife and I are hoping to put an addition onto our house and change use from a single family to a 2-family. The purpose of this is to allow my in-laws to move to North Andover from Connecticut. With current zoning, we are in compliance of all dimensional criteria from the town. The only approval that I see that we need is from this board is to change use from single to 2-family. I also have, and I learned I was supposed to give them to you before, but I have several letters from abutters that I got in the past couple days. I have some pictures that I printed out that I can present to you if you'd like that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome to, we'll take them, and, because you have a lengthy abutter list. So, okay.
This is one set of
Yeah.
abutter notices.
Are these the originals?
3 or 4 of them are, 2 of them were emailed. There's 6 total.
Okay. All right, so, do you have these? Okay.
No, I
So we'll-
didn't know that I was
Yeah, that's okay. Let me just, it's okay.
Thank you. I was watching these old meetings and I saw other people just present them, so I thought that's what you had to do.
Well, just,
Oh, I
well,
wasn't
well, just,
here.
just,
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, if Ellen was in charge of that meeting, they would have come in 2 weeks prior to,
Yeah.
by certified
Yeah, no.
something.
I will say the notices went out on December 26th and January 2nd, so I'm thinking that a lot of people didn't, well, I guess they got the letters.
The
so
only thing I
got
look
it
for
soon.
is original signatures, you know. I thought I was being too hard asking for that. All right. So,
I'm trying to understand your addition.
Sure.
Because your house is kinda, it just kinda looks like, all right, so I have a L, and now I'm gonna add something, and it doesn't look like it flows.
I'll give you a little history of it, I guess. So the original house was built in 1930.
Yep.
And the front of the house faced Andover Bypass. There were 3 houses there. In 1992, they put in the subdivision, or they started this, one of,
This is your house, right?
that is not my house, no.
Oh.
The first, that's my
This
house.
is his house.
This is your backyard.
It's now the front yard.
That's the front yard.
Okay.
It used to be the backyard. So when they created Meadowood off of Willow Street,
Oh, okay, yes.
it turned
Yep.
it. So I used to have a driveway that went, well, I didn't, but the property had a driveway that went out to Andover Bypass. They removed that. So the house is, yeah, it sits funny on the lot. So our current backyard is what used to be the front of the property. So the addition would be to the side. So that first picture, it's to the right of it.
You know, for me, I honestly have to say, it looks like you're just adding another wing to already wings on it, so I can't picture the rendition of another wing onto this. It just looks.
Is there a rendition?
It doesn't, no, I
It
can't
was,
see it.
the plans were, they should be there.
do we have plans?
Um,
I thought we had plans.
you know, it just looks like they're kind of these. I can't picture, because there's just so many, it just doesn't flow as, it's like, okay, here's an addition. It doesn't look like, okay, so here's an addition for a 2-family. Doesn't look like, well, I added this to look like it's part of my home.
Are you looking,
Yes, I can't picture that from this.
what are you
I
looking?
mean, I understand that this is what you're giving me, but I can't picture this.
When you say you can't
to
picture it,
this.
what you're saying is,
I can't visually do it.
it's not, you don't,
Same.
plans aren't sufficient for you?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's facing it from the front.
This is the front, you told me.
Yeah, yeah,
But you're
So it's a
putting,
different
but
angle.
you're putting an addition,
over here.
which is, I mean, there's just so many layers to it. It doesn't work for me, to be honest with you.
Okay. So I just have a quick question before we even get to that.
This is
Sure.
a wing to a wing to a wing.
So your property is not part of the definitive subdivision
Correct.
that went in, so you're outside of that planning and permitting process?
And that was about that was a several month process to figure that out, but
Sure.
yes.
Sure. Okay. So what Ellen is saying is you just feel that you just need better plans?
No, I feel like that what you're proposing for an addition just looks like you're adding another house onto a house. I just think it could have been look nicer.
You don't
instead
like
of-
the design, so you can
I don't like
visualize
it.
it. You
I
can
can't visualize it. I can visualize of this, going like this, going like this. So you're making kind of a Z house.
It's not. I mean, it already is. I mean, the
But you're
picture
making
that you
it,
see.
yes, you're making it, it's
So
an
we're
L
ex-
to a Z.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Correct, and we went through many different variations. So this is the only side of the house where an addition could be done. There's plenty of setback space. All that on the other side, there's no room.
You don't
And
need
if
any-
we
you
brought
don't
it
need any-
closer-
You don't need any dimensional variances.
No,
You
Correct.
just need the
where,
special.
where it
permit.
is right now. Correct. If I tried to do it in some other spots, I would.
I just don't think it.
I don't even think there'd be any room because the current setbacks are 5 feet.
Maybe because I'm not visualizing this, I'm not visualizing it, and I'm looking at it as a footprint, as a Z,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I can't visually see that as looking nice.
Well, let him make his
He
presentation.
did, and he said
No.
that.
That's it?
Yeah,
No, I mean,
Well,
you-
I'm not.
yeah, he did a quick
I mean, it's here for one thing. I'm here to answer questions.
Okay.
I have a question.
There's
How is it you're saying that by doing an in-law suite, you're going to diminish the property? I don't understand that. I don't understand how you're saying that that's something that's going to diminish it.
from the letter that was submitted.
Yeah.
So right now we're in a 3,500 square foot house. The neighborhood, if you're not familiar,
big.
they're between 1,300 and 1,900 square feet. So if I came before the board to do a family suite, now I'm increasing the property size to.
Aren't you doing that anyway?
No, I'm purposely not doing that.
But you're increasing the overall
Correct.
outside look of it. So in a
What I don't want to do is create a family suite and have a house that's 5,500 or 4,500 square feet in a neighborhood that already has 1,300 square foot houses.
instead you want to make a two-family in a one-family area.
I mean, yes.
It's almost like a tomato, in a sense. I mean,
Well,
they're-
I don't think so
Well,
because
the area is not exclusively one family. The
say that again.
there it is.
Yeah,
There it is.
I didn't hear the question.
I
She's
said,
done.
I said that I don't think the area is exclusively one family. There's different, it's surrounded by different.
Well, that's why I printed the pictures. So R6 probably is.
Yeah.
There's but some of the pictures of the abutting area
Yeah.
is Willow Street, which is the backside of Stop and Shop, Bacon Joy, like that whole area. We have Alcott Village. We have the Doctors Park at 100 Andover Bypass. We have an auto body place on the corner. Hope's Bicycle is on the other corner. So, no, there probably aren't two. I'm quite certain there aren't two families in the Meadowwood subdivision.
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to speak for all of R6. I was told R6 was created for that subdivision, so
I think it was.
yeah.
I think it was, but it's allowed. What you're looking to do is.
Correct. It is allowed.
It's allowed and it's,
And just maybe to that point, I figured it would come up because I know that there are single-family homes there. I looked at the abutter list that I have. I think there's 48 houses. That might be inclusive of my own. Seven of the 48 are currently, that I know of, are currently rented. The owners aren't there. Well,
Really?
and.
that doesn't matter to me. I mean,
Okay, I thought that I think it should matter. I think it should be part of the discussion if we're going to discuss two-family versus single-family, because there's single families there and they're renting them. And then the further point of that is 14 out of the 48 that I know of, and per the letter that you, that I submitted, there's a lot of families from other countries, and their families come in as normal practice and stay with them for 6 months at a time. Some of them stay there full time. So they're already living in a 13 or 15 or 1,900 square foot house with 3 families. So doing that, we're at almost 29% of the houses are either rented or being used for multifamily already. So
But
I know
that's
it's
not-
different.
But that's not multifamily, because it's still a single-family dwelling, whether it's rented and it's one family living there, or it's owned and it has aunts, uncles, grandparents, and great-grandparents living there. So I think that's different in the sense of a two-family versus a one-family.
I drove by that neighborhood this morning. They are all single-family homes.
Mhm.
All single-family homes that are squashed within each other. If you wanted a cup of sugar, you just have to put your arm out, and your neighbor could give you a cup of sugar. But to ask for a two-family in a predominantly 100% single-family area, that's just hard to swallow. Now, I own a bunch of tenements in Lawrence, and the current house now looks like a two-family,
I think it was.
okay?
I think it was. I couldn't find it anywhere
I
in
mean,
the
I'm
records.
looking at the
but I-
house now, and the current, it looks like a two-family you would find in Lawrence, Lowell, Havel, or whatever. Why can't you just take a wing of the current existing home and put the in-laws there?
we tried that as well. It doesn't really, the way the interior walls, the way they redesigned it, however it was, it's not, there's stairwells in the middle. It's not really conducive to that.
I mean, I'm really surprised that there aren't neighbors here up in arms about putting a two-family in a single-family neighborhood. Okay, but I see the audience, and I see there's nobody here. Okay, so
Well,
it is what it is.
Well, let me ask.
Only us,
Is there
right.
any neighbors here?
Yeah.
So
No.
let the record reflect that there's no neighbors here, but we
Yeah.
do have the letters submitted, right?
2 emails are submitted.
Yeah.
Plus what you submitted,
If they were
What's
concerned,
that?
they would be here.
plus what you submitted.
Yeah, I think I had
So-
6.
So, I mean, but the fact remains, what you want to do is allowed by special permit, So the way special permits work, it's just like variances. A 5-person board, it requires 4 votes in favor. So what I think would make sense is to try to narrow the issue is that not whether or not you can or can't do it. The question is what looks, what would work for you and what would make the board feel more comfortable with what you're trying to do. That's how I think should be the approach, because, in that specific neighborhood, there may not be any two families, but generally in the area, there are a lot of different types of zoning districts. So it's not like it's exclusive to one particular spot. It's kind of unique, I think, in that, it is a nice neighborhood. You have these other uses around it, and I don't understand why we couldn't just take the design approach in terms of what works for you and what would fit in what, because you're not looking for any dimensional relief, which I think is significant.
Can you tell me something about the easement? What? Can you build it? I mean, I see you're building on some of it.
No, we're not.
No, he's not.
No, we're
Oh,
not.
so you're right on the line?
That's been about a.
He's right on the
That's
line
been
of
about a
it.
year back and forth, because
Alright.
the way the easement runs. It is a 25-foot easement for proposed utilities. I don't know if they're there or not. Nobody has been able to verify if there's anything under there. There is a line of 100-foot white pine trees that are in the easement, so there's clearly there's nothing underneath those trees. So I purposely went up to the trees, realized that the trees were a part of the easement. So planning, it's changed the dimensions a little bit, but
In terms of what you're proposing to build, how come you didn't kind of square it off and pull it forward in terms of, Ellen had talked about sort of the
Yep.
L. I mean,
No, it's a Z.
Z. You know what I
Well,
mean?
no,
In the context of, just trying to square it off.
well, so it's squared off to the. So the room that you can see is, and I think it's listed as like kids room existing or kids playroom existing. So it's squared off to that back part of the property, of the side. and we thought about bringing it up and creating a courtyard in the front, but that's bringing it closer to the street. So we were trying not to bring it closer to the street. We were trying to put it towards the back of the yard where there's less visual impediment to anybody. I guess the other part of that is the window that would be part of that zigzag. That's the window to the kitchen. So we clearly didn't want to block the two windows that we have on that side of the house. Then there'd be one window on the front of the house. That would really look funny that way as well.
I just think there's a lot more that could be done with this than just flopping a lot more design-wise instead of saying, okay, here's my addition. Looks like a 3-family now.
I think
So-
part of the problem, as the only architect on the board, I'll say that we try not to. I design during the day, and I try not to design on this board, but we have to kind of take into account the content, the character of the neighborhood when we're doing this kind of change of use special permit. So that's kind of where the comments are coming from, I think, and from my vantage point, I mean, I think the reason it becomes a kind of Z shape is inherently daylight, so it makes sense to me that he's doing that. But that being said, for me, the fatal flaw of making it kind of jive and be in harmony with the existing structure is that the roof lines are like way different than
The what? I'm sorry.
the roof slope
Okay.
is way different than the existing house, and so that just lends me to believe. I mean, you have a hip roof house
Mhm.
with a gable roof at a totally. I guess the slope is pretty consistent, but just going sort of mismatching two different roof types, and it's just there's a lot happening there, and I think the comments you're getting are indicative of that. I think it's, you know, I also kind of share the sentiment that it's kind of tough to swallow going to a 2-family. I mean, we've had a lot of special permit applications come before this board in my time here recently, where, I mean, I'm sure you've talked to folks and know this, but I mean, special permits for family suites tend to be a little bit easier to swallow, I think, for our board, because they don't live in sort of perpetuity with the deed. It expires at the sale. So the fact that this would be a kind of change to the deed, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking about a change to the deed of this property that lives on forever and never sort of comes back to the board. This just is what it is. It is what you build, and the neighborhood lives with it forever. It puts it kind of in a different category than a family suite in terms of how this board is absorbing your information.
I appreciate that, and I did know that coming in, and I think I might have said it before that I purposely did the 2-family instead of the family suite because I thought it would. I actually thought thought the board would be more open to that, so that you can keep tabs on. You can legally have it. I mean, when I sell the house, who knows what's going to happen? The house that's next door to me that I think, Ellen, you thought was mine, I think the third or fourth picture, and that's the house in the corner that I called. It's technically a single family. There's at least 3 families living in there, and in real estate transactions in the MLS, it's listed as a multifamily. I know that might not have any bearing, but we're 2 of the 3 older houses, so we don't conform already. Like, we don't look like any of the others. We're never going to look like any of the others. I know that I could tomorrow put the addition on as is, and I don't have to come before the board at all. And we share a kitchen. I mean, truth be told, she's going to do most of my cooking anyway. But you know, so I did know
And that's
that the family suite.
That's happened too.
What's that?
And that has also happened in the past.
So here's my other issue with your home, because you said you're surrounded by smaller homes. So you're taking 3,500 square feet and making it into 46, 49? That's huge. And that is just, I mean, that is going to stick out like a sore thumb. So it doesn't blend with the neighborhood, which is a very different, it's hard to blend with the willows and, you know, and and all the,
And I'm not going to disagree with you. I guess my only point is that it already does. I mean, when you
but
come
you're
in.
making it worse, in my,
I mean,
well, in my
possibly,
opinion.
possibly.
Yes.
I mean, when you come in, there's a big Meadowood granite sign on the
Mm-hmm.
corner of the property, and it was the existing house. Like like I said, it turned. The front yard used to be the backyard, vice versa. So it's
Right.
never going to fit in.
Well, you're right in
that
the
was.
middle of it.
And we're pretty much. I mean, we're right
You're
in the
right in
middle
the
of the
middle.
beginning of it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, right.
there's two other neighborhoods that go the other
And there's
direction.
the
but-
circles that go around it, right.
Right.
You're right in the middle of it.
Everyone passes by. So I mean,
Right.
yes, it already doesn't conform, and it wouldn't going forward. So I'm not, you're correct. I guess to Doug's point of the family suite, that's why I didn't do that, because I didn't want to have a 4,500 square foot house or whatever it is for someone to have to purchase. That just,
You know, I
What are you gonna do with
appreciate
that?
your honesty, because people say we're putting a family suite, and it's really a two-family.
Right.
So I do appreciate your honesty, and I get that, and I understand that. It's just the design of this, and I have no problem so much as with the two-family, it's just the design of this it makes it look, again, like I said, a three-family. So you're making it, the look of the house and the design and the pitch and the roofs and the,
okay.
so here's my addition, you know what I mean? So every time I drive by, I'll be, oh, there's the addition type thing.
So are you open to an updated design, an alternative design to,
Just a little bit
Consider
more,
it?
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
you know? I mean,
It's just,
I mean, it's-
again, maybe I'm not seeing it right. Maybe I'm just looking at it as this and this.
I mean, you're
maybe-
correct in terms of, you could apply for a building permit tomorrow in terms of, in addition. But if you know,
But, I mean, I appreciate the fact that he's going down the legal road, and if he wants to sell it in a year or 5, it's a two-family.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with what you want to do. I think it looks, I mean, most people when they come in, their designs for a certain way, you know, and, based on whatever constraints they're working within. But, you know, I mean, I think it's a unique site, so I mean, I understand what you're trying to do. I don't-
As do I, it's just, I think it could be,
Just doesn't like it.
no, I just don't think it blends properly. It could be a little more meshed in with the existing home.
Okay.
Again, because you're creating
The roof line is everything for me. That's if you took a chunk of this hip roof and put it right there and you tied it together, I don't think Ellen would be making those comments. It's
Ellen
just-
would. Yes.
It's Ellen, not Alan.
Would a two-story, like having it go up and totally matching, just
Yes,
aesthetically?
the jogger, like maybe to keep it like an L and just more, again, it's just.
So it's the height and the
Yes.
L, I guess.
Z.
Z,
S.
Z, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know which is the front, which is the back.
You're
but
talking about whether or not it's squared off in terms of
Yes.
roof lines?
Squared off and, yeah.
Is that what you mean?
It is square on the front, as was mentioned.
Do you mean to come out to the front and square off right in front?
I can't tell you how to design it, but for me, visually looking at it, again, it looks like you're adding 16 or however, and 1,100 square feet,
'Cause
and
it's
here's
stepped
the
back.
addition.
Right.
And here you are, and it's just gonna be so, it's kinda like, putting a purple house, it just next to it's just gonna stick out in my eyes visually on here. And this is how, maybe I'm not seeing it, maybe I'm not just putting the two together, but on paper, it just looks like, right there. It's kind of, I mean, I
Yeah,
think it
I mean,
could
I
be-
can't change your mind. I
Right.
don't want to, that's a subjective opinion, so I don't want to, there's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to, but I could change the plans potentially. I don't know.
That's not, that's
Yeah.
not, I
Yeah.
mean, that's my problem that I
Yeah.
see with this,
Yeah.
with this design. I don't know about anyone else, but,
A question that I'll ask is, so if we're turning the one, I'm stuck on some of the numbers too, everybody. There's an existing single family that's 3,500 square feet. We're seeking to convert it to a two-family with 4,650 square feet, 4,649. What are the, like, the two units, okay? What are the dimensions of the two units? How big is one unit, how big is the other of this 4649?
I'm not sure if so one's
So
35.
we've got a single fam that's 3,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Converting to a two fam, that's 4,600 square feet. It's two fam, there are gonna be two different residential dwelling units. How big is each residential dwelling unit?
The second one is 1149.
Oh, okay.
The whole addition.
All right, so
The whole
The
so
addition.
all right,
The two family.
So he's keeping the
second
3,500 primary home as
okay.
that.
So again, stuck with the numbers, I'm having a similar amount of trouble kind of visualizing perhaps a more complete or a more pandering set of plans, drawings, and I sure would appreciate a neighborhood map showing where this is in relation to the rest, because I just don't have any sense of where this 3,500 square foot structure is and where the balance of the 1,300 to 1,900 square foot structures are. That being the case, if the balance of the structures are 1,300 to 1,900 square feet,
It might be too far out. I was trying to get the whole area, so that's.
so you're right in the heart of it.
In the middle. That's Meadowwood.
Yep.
This is Nadine, this is Peterson, and Buckland.
Okay.
So it's like 4 different circles within.
Understood. Okay.
And then Stop and Shop is, looking at it backwards. But
Here. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
I got you. Thank you. So I'm generally a simple guy when confronted with relatively simple numbers, particularly when they're presented in the application as if the balance of the neighborhood is 1,300 to 1,900 square feet. If we double that to make two fams, then we're topping out at 3,800 square feet. Yet we're talking about a 4,600 square foot structure. So I'm kind of struck by a proportional two fam for this neighborhood is at the top end 3,800 square feet, not 45 or 4650. So I'm not telling you to do anything about that. I'm just suggesting that that's something that kind of jumps out at me in the scale of this particular project. One of the things that I will echo is that I absolutely 100% appreciate the straightforward approach that you're taking, which is I'm not trying to sneak an in-law suite. You may have your own reasons for doing so, but from this side of the table, the number of applications that we see for family suites that exceed whatever the code is allowing of the family suite, and they're creating a two-fam, which always met with resistance from the board. In this case, at a minimum, I'd like to say thank you for the straightforwardness of calling a two-fam and not trying to sneak it in by a family suite section. The last thing, which feels a little bit less straightforward, and I'm not necessarily asking you to do this here at the meeting, but hopefully after the meeting, perhaps straighten it out with Valerie or address it with Valerie, is there are 4 letters submitted. I think it's 4. There appear to be 5 that are submitted. 2 of them don't appear to be on the abutters list, which is the folks at 70 Meadowwood and 68 Meadowwood. I can't understand the hows or the whys. I don't know how everything is laid out. But there are 2 letters in here that aren't of the abutters list, and perhaps there's a story behind that. One of the letters in here indicating that it's from 57 Meadowwood is from the letter writer is Revalle, forgive me.
Yep.
Reveille. But on the abutters list, we have Prabhakar Paye. Perhaps there was a recent sale, but I would love for you to tick and tie.
That's her husband.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's helpful. Thank you.
And the other 2, sorry, are you done?
I am, yeah.
didn't-
Thank you.
Sorry. So the other 2, no, they're not on the abutter list. So the circle that I live on, there's 4 houses that aren't within.
Just didn't qualify.
Yeah, they're not within the dimensional.
Yep.
But they're friends and know that we were doing this and said, look, if a letter will help, a letter will help.
Not the admissibility.
What's that?
Goes to the weight, not the admissibility. If they, anyone can submit a
Yeah,
letter.
absolutely. Happy to accept
Yeah.
it. I just wanted to point out for the
Yeah, I
board that.
figured I'd bring it in rather than not, but, yeah, so they don't make the list.
Right. Thank you.
On the abutter list.
Okay.
Anything else?
Anything down here? Alan, anything else?
Almost, but I get my mind in it.
Yeah. So what would you like to do, Mr. Consoli? Would you like to
Well-
work on the design a little bit and think about your options, or?
I can feel it from the, from the meeting that, you know, we're not gonna get 4 out of 5, I don't believe.
Well,
So,
You don't have to call for a vote tonight if you'd like.
right, yeah.
As we had with other applications, we could continue this to the next hearing. You could kind of digest some of the things you've heard and come back at the next meeting and present either the same thing or anything different. You don't have to. You know, it's sort of your choice, it's your petition.
Can you just withdraw it? Is that a
Um,
possibility to just withdraw the application and?
Well, technically, a withdrawal is once the public hearing opens, it's by vote of the board to allow you to withdraw. And that's something you could always ask for, too. You know, my suggestion would be, honestly, you may want to continue it and just, you know, think about the meeting and think about your plan. And you can always submit a letter to withdraw it at any point, which would be taken up at the next meeting.
Why would you want to withdraw it? Because if you come back, then you'd have to go through the whole process again of submitting. If you withdraw it, then...
I'm just wondering what my options are.
Oh, okay.
Procedurally,
I don't know if, you know, if a no vote right now or next month, if that has more
I
weight than
haven't-
just withdrawing.
I haven't heard a no. I've heard just questions about the design.
Right, and I guess internally, I don't know what else we can do to the design that will appease members of the board that won't significantly impact the current house right now.
Yep.
So we'll be ripping down walls I think it's a bigger process, so you know, I'll probably continue. We're not gonna take a vote tonight, or I wouldn't like to close this tonight.
Why don't we continue it and get some legal advice as to what you can do? As far as withdrawing it, continuing it, but
Yeah.
like I said to the other person, why have a gun to your head tonight?
Yeah.
Think about it, okay, let's continue it for a month, see where you want to go, then come back and tell us what you decide to do.
Right, yep.
Okay?
Yeah, that's what I mean, I think that's
Okay.
the wise decision.
Yes.
At the risk of speaking for Madam Vice Chair over there, I think you just probably put your finger on an issue for Madam Vice Chair, which is changing the design may require a bigger project, which is tearing down walls and merging the kind of the two-fam, which is, I think, and I'll correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Vice Chair, but what it brings out for me is exactly what you said, which is, oh, here's the addition and kind of end of story. It feels like with the characterization that it's a bigger project to rip down walls and kind of merge the units and make it more seamless. It feels like you're just bolting an addition on, which I think may be something that Madam Vice Chair is reacting a little bit to. So to the extent that the design includes an effort to, and Doug certainly knows the language far better than I do, but an effort to merge the property instead of just another bolt-on, but to create what appears to be a single structure rather than a structure, and a structure.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. I will let you know that we had 2 different architects look at it. They didn't draw it up, and I'm sure there's 10 other designs that could have come up, but I don't want you to think that we did just slap it on. I just want to make that point clear, that it's been about a 2.5-year process of designing, redesigning. It just seemed like this was the best place for it to go, to fit, but.
Well, you're not without options, so,
Yep.
you know, if you're inclined, we'll continue it to the next meeting, and then you can think about what you want to do. That makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to continue to February 13th?
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of continuing?
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, so you're staying continued. All right,
Move it along.
moving right along. So last on the agenda, we have board elections and the chapel letter from December the 22nd.
I make a motion to renominate, reappoint Mr. Al Manzi as chairman of the zoning board for the coming year, so 2018.
Appreciate the nomination, Alan. This year, I think that we've been talking about it for a couple of years, and Al has been extraordinarily gracious about helping me bide my time and taking a shot at the chairmanship, which is not necessarily something that excites me. In fact, it makes me extraordinarily anxious, particularly in the context of a 40B that appears to be poised to be actually heading down our lane. It's been making noise for a while. But after an awful lot of thought and some discussion, and certainly listening to the Board of Selectmen at the reappointment process, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and say I'd like a shot at the chair for 2018.
Well, I can understand that. And obviously, we'll have discussion on it.
Amen, brother.
Okay.
I hope we do.
I got a cough drop, so you gotta excuse me. I'm trying to swallow it. I just did. At the last meeting, it's my belief that Al disqualified himself because of a land issue as being an abutter to the process. And I think the vice chair, to her credit, did a super job.
True that.
Okay, I mean, she really did go over and above and did a wonderful job in representing all parties and moving the thing along. And in my opinion, now, I don't know if he would disqualify himself in this 40B, because you're not in the butter, right? Over there on Sutton Street?
Let's just, if I could answer one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I'm happy to serve, the board, the regular members of the board, the associates, if they want me to serve. I've been doing it for years. I have no problem with it. I enjoy it. It's up to you guys. As with any, as with any application, all of us, it's incumbent on us to, when a petition is filed, to see whether or not it's a hearing we can sit on, or if you have to recuse for conflicts. That's incumbent on any and all of us. So I can't comment on anything prior to it being filed.
I don't see where conflict makes a difference, because they see Mrs. McIntyre did an admirable job.
So that's not, I think if we're having board elections,
Okay,
people,
it's-
it's what.
See, but Ms. McIntyre doesn't want to do that.
Whatever
Oh.
whatever you guys want, so, whatever. If you want me to do it, I'm happy to do it.
Oh.
If you don't, that's fine too.
Well,
Sorry, what, maybe I missed, we're voting for each appointment tonight? Is that
Yeah,
what we're
right
doing?
now we're doing the chair.
Just the chair.
Well, there was, there was a motion, yeah.
And I made a motion that
Yes.
that has not been seconded.
So this is discussion.
Well, you really should second it for discussion, the way I understand Robert's rules.
I'm going to
correct?
second yours and Paul's.
Did I make a motion?
No.
Did I make a motion to appoint myself?
Yes, you did.
I did.
Yes, you did.
Well, I'll share that I'm going to be departing the board very soon. So I was going to say after this meeting that this was going to be my last meeting if the chair would accept my resignation. So my term actually ends June, I think, June 3rd.
I don't have the power, chairman doesn't have the authority to appoint, but,
But since we have alternates in the queue, I figured that it would be not, it would not put the board at a disservice to step aside at this point.
Disruptive would be the word.
So, anyway, I'm just tempering, I'm just giving context to my opinion that I think there would be, it would be a good thing to have a little bit of change up in this board. I just feel that. So, on this matter before us, I would like to suggest to go with Paul.
Does anybody think it would help keep Doug on the board if we nominate him?
Maybe we should nominate Doug as chair.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. You come up with some good ideas with that architectural stuff. Yeah, you really do it, like the roof lines and sending houses back. I mean, your experience in that is invaluable.
And you're gonna leave us.
Yeah.
you're gonna have to break in another new member?
No, because she has 3 alternates.
Great. We'll do it.
So,
Can I ask the two candidates, Mr. Chairman, a question?
Yeah, sure.
Given that I'm still the last guy on the bench here, does it really make a difference? I mean, to me, we've all said we're going to do this town of service and serve on the board. And so I guess my question would be to each person, does it matter? And if it does matter, why?
So here's the thing, when you're chair, I'm gonna speak for, there's a lot that goes on
Ellen's
behind the
been
scenes.
chair.
That a lot of people on this board who haven't been chair don't see. There's TRC meetings, there's phone calls here, there's meetings, there's time out from work, there's a lot of going back and work with emails and agendas and calls. So
Decisions.
there's a lot of things that, you know, you come into here as Al comes in, as I came in, with being prepared. There's hours and hours spent. So, yes, it does. There's a lot of time. There's a lot, I mean, you guys didn't know that outside consultant was not paid by us, by the town of North Andover. The applicant paid for them, but we chose it. The planning board had paid for it through the town. So there are a lot of behind-the-scenes things that happen.
No, and I guess that wasn't my question.
Are you willing to put the time in behind?
Well, and I would assume both
Yes.
candidates are willing to put the time in, and both have served on the
Yeah,
board for a
I
period.
don't consider myself a candidate, to be very candid. I mean, I'm happy to do the job if the board wants me to do it. I've been doing it for years. I mean, it's not, I consider myself your humble servant, so it's not,
well,
I'm happy to do it if you want me to. If you don't want me to do it, that's fine.
That's all right.
Whatever.
I'll take a little bit of a shot at your question, Ron, wherein I think at the end of the day, does it matter who's chair? The answer is no, because the job is going to get done, and the remainder of the board of selectmen, and Valerie is going to make sure that the job gets done. And anybody who is desirous of being chair is, as you've already pointed out, willing to put the time in. So what actually, to me, matters in the experience of being chair is actually getting my fingernails dirty behind the scenes in the way that Ellen was describing, in authoring the decisions, in attending the peer reviews, in just doing all of the behind-the-scenes stuff. It is, in my eyes, my expectation is, because I have not done it, and Al has carried that weight has carried the weight dutifully and valiantly for an awfully long time. I think there's some value in the balance of the board gaining the exposure to that at a minimum and experience with it at a maximum. In my eyes, in my eyes, I'm not going to try to foist this on anyone else. In my eyes, I think that everybody should end up being chair at some point for a period of time. I think that there should be some element of rotation so that the balance of the board does have a fuller appreciation for the amount of work that Al has put in over the years, for the amount of time that Al has put in through the years, for the amount of hair that he has. Well, he's got pretty much a full head of hair. I'm going to lose some in mine. Amount of hair that's lost in managing, herding the cats, that is the balance of the town. Well, Valerie obviously carries an awful lot of the administrative load, or whoever sits at Valerie's table carries the load in organizing that, but Al has been the engine behind the scenes. So what I would hope to do is to get a year or two, if the board wants, or 3, whatever it is, until there is someone else who says, you know what, yeah, I do want to turn as well. I want to see what that's like. Because I think that there is no better teacher than experience and developing leadership at the municipal level. This is not to get too grand or anything, but I think the board would be served extraordinarily well if each of us had leadership experience. What I'll offer is that there were a couple of hearings, very, very small stuff when Al was recused and Ellen just called me up and basically was a jerk and said, I don't want to do it, you're stuck with it. So, which I did, was happy to do, and it was a fun little taste. I think I might have had 3 decisions under my belt, which is nowhere near that. I imagine it's 300 or more that Al has performed for. So I'd like to do it for a year or two, get a number of decisions, get a number of matters. I'd love for someone else, for there to be a vice chair. That's kind of like again, a rotation element of things. I'd like there to be a rotation from member to clerk to vice to chair. Perhaps it's as organized as you got to do 2 years as the vice before you can be the chair. I'm not suggesting that right now because I think it needs more thought, particularly in the context of the fact that we only have 3-year appointments.
Nothing in our rule says you have to do that.
No, nothing says you have to do it. Absolutely not. I was just suggesting it as a practice.
You believe it would give greater depth to the board if more people had the experience of being chair, which is a sound answer.
In my little fantasy world, yes.
No, I think it's a sound
so.
answer. Thank you.
But Paul, my question is this, and I don't mean to hold this against you. This is for the sake of conversation. Don't you work in Boston?
Yeah.
And you go to work in Boston every day?
For better or worse.
For
I had a
better or
2-hour and
worse. Okay,
17-minute
all right,
commute
okay.
this morning, Al, and you're really picking a sore there.
Right, okay. I just think, in my opinion, with your employment, and God bless you, I hope you make $10 million in Boston, right? Because with the aggravation that goes with it, you need it, okay? That you're simply not as accessible to City Hall as somebody who is local.
Yep.
Okay, so if the town manager or the planning board or the conservation board or somebody has a question and they want to say, hey, Al, take a look at this and let's see what's going on. And I understand someone can email you something. I understand they can text you something, okay? I understand with the lines of communication that papers are with faxes, everything's there the same day. But sometimes you got to meet somebody face to face.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, at town hall, you know what I'm trying to say? Not via the telephone. And how are you going to make the trip from Boston to back here?
Yep. Well,
I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, if you work here locally, I would totally understand just where you're coming from, okay, with the circle of responsibility. I get the circle of responsibility, and I think that's a good idea. But in order to be responsible, we have to be here and accessible.
Yep.
Okay, and I don't want you to start throwing things at me. I just don't think via your job in Boston, you're as accessible as Al is.
I'm not going to disagree.
Okay,
Look,
okay,
working
that's
in
my
Boston is a
only
hassle.
problem. Okay.
So while I don't disagree with you, what I will
Yeah.
suggest is that there's an adaptation that goes throughout life, Alan. Nobody is ready for their first kid when it comes along, but you figure it out. Nobody's ready for their second
Yeah,
kid
I
when it comes
understand,
along,
I
but you
understand.
figure it out. Nobody's ready to sit on the board, frankly, when they first come along, but you figure it out. So in that regard, I'm fortunate in 2 ways to accommodate the logistical hurdle that you're identifying there, and you're rightly identifying, which is I have a saintly wife. I suspect that Al does too, who is willing to indulge the time that it will take away from the family, whether it's the early morning hours or the twilight hours or additional night meetings, that kind of stuff. I also have a job that offers something that is, I think, extraordinary out in the field, which is philanthropy time, which they allow you to walk away from your desk in order to serve the community in some way, shape, or form. They don't tell you how to do it. They just say, let us know when you're going and what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not telling you that I relish the thought of the commute or coming back for a lunch meeting or getting to work at 10:30 because I had an 8 o'clock at town hall, or have to leave the office yet again at 3 o'clock in order to get to town hall. But it is absolutely something that I'm both A, willing, and B, more importantly, to answering your question, able to do.
Yeah, I'm only telling you what's on my mind.
I feel you. I think you're right to have that on your mind.
Okay. I mean, I just see, I have a daughter who works in Boston, okay? I had 2 daughters who used to work in Boston. I have a daughter who works in Boston now. And I see the commute she does. And I have to go to Canton twice a year. It's horrible. Okay? It's absolutely horrible. Okay, I came back from Swampscott this afternoon, and I ended up with 93, and it's horrible. And I was there at 4:30. Okay, and I'm getting off at 1:25. Well, I'm sure you are too,
Yeah.
right?
It starts at 3.
Yeah, it's just incredible. You have to see it to believe it, right? I just see it as a big burden, and it's something that's hard for you to, we all walk into things with good intentions. And sometimes the obstacles that we face, and the obstacles being just traffic and time, and you have to work, you have a couple of kids, so you need the money, God bless you, you're working, right? And it's the right thing to do. I just don't see, I mean, can you burn the candle at both ends? Is that how the saying goes? Okay, you're trying to burn the candle at both ends?
I think in today's age, everybody's burning the candle at 3, 4, 5 ends. So I'm not
Well, not when
alone.
you're
I'm not
70.
alone in being oversubscribed, with
Yeah,
stuff.
okay.
Al's got a handful as well. Everybody's got those commitments outside of home, work, and community.
Kids can be considered a burden too, at some, working in Boston and having kids can be a burden, and commitments with children.
I work in Boston, and I don't think that would be prohibitive to serve on the board in a chair role. I mean,
But you're leaving the board.
No, he's not. He's gonna be chair.
Vice chair. We'll give a grooming in for the chair.
no, I mean, yeah, whatever. Kids play more of a role, I think, than that.
So would you be interested in being vice chair for a year?
Would I be interested in being vice chair? That's kind of not something that had entered the consciousness. I was kind of going to go all the way because, again, in my mind, to share with everybody the completeness of this, with the 40B coming, this is directly on point to what you're pointing out, Alan. If a 40B actually hits our desk, then I am absolutely, I'll tell you right now, I will not be able to chair a 40B and chair the monthly meetings. So there might be a pick or a choose there, and my hope or suspicion or expectation is that the vice chair is going to be someone of strength and experience, whether it be Al or Ellen or anybody else, who is willing to pick up that load.
Yeah, but the way I understand it, that 40B is right around the corner,
Correct.
Yep.
right? So it's not something that may, could, should. I mean, we're looking at it down at the end of the tunnel.
Right. We look at a.
Okay, so now you're saying that if the 40B comes, that it's going to be too much for you?
I think it's going to be too much for any chair.
Well, but
I-
especially for somebody who lives in Boston, who works in Boston.
I suspect that anybody who is chair is not going to want to do the 40B and the monthly meetings, particularly if it gets busy. So I'm
Yeah,
not
but we have
certain.
him who's lived through it.
Has done a 40B and the monthly meetings?
Well, okay, he let her do it, but he was still doing the monthly meetings. Whatever.
Ellen and I did our fair share of 40Bs.
Okay.
Since after '06. We did.
All right, shall we vote, or is there more discussion?
Whatever you guys want to do.
Well,
We have,
it's 20 minutes to 10, we gotta do something.
Do we not need to have Nathan here to vote, or does that not matter?
well, usually it's the regular members, I think.
Oh,
that-
okay,
that
good.
I don't mean to be,
No.
so,
I just wanted to make sure we weren't forgetting somebody if we needed to have somebody.
so, tends to be the regular members that,
I always had everyone vote, because it's everyone's board. And that's where you and I differ, that I always gave the associates, because I was an associate for quite some time.
so then
And
if you
then-
want to wait till Nathan's available, then you can wait till Nathan's available.
Yeah, but
I mean,
you
I
should
can,
do it tonight. Okay?
Really, I mean, I'm
You
happy
got 5,
to-
6, 7 people, right?
I'm happy to serve in whatever role you want me to serve in. You know, it's whatever you want is fine for me. It doesn't need to be contentious.
Well, I made the motion,
I'm gonna do
okay,
this
to
one.
appoint you, to reappoint you, or to re-elect you, whatever the proper thing is. It hasn't been seconded, so I don't know where you wanna go.
There's 2 seconds.
Yes, it is.
Oh, excuse me, all right. My apologies.
But I think what would be helpful to know is what other roles people want to serve in as well. We
Yeah,
also have a
agreed.
vice chair, we have a clerk, and that's sort of how we function. So.
Should
Who's
we
interested
dispose
in,
of one first, and then look at,
You can vote as a board.
who's interested in doing the vice job, who's interested in doing the clerk's job? I mean, you know. They're all fun in their own way. They're all fun.
Fun? You on the record with that, Al?
You know, I mean, I enjoy the work. I mean, you know, it's my public service component that I do, and It's, you know, it's what I've done for a long time, and
I don't want.
I don't look at it as work, I look at it as just sort of
I don't want to
what
be
I
the
do.
vice chair, but I would be the clerk. I would be open to taking over the role of the clerk.
I would be interested in vice chair again.
Alexandria, do you have any interest in any
I-
of the officer roles?
I do not have any interest.
Yeah.
Not at the current moment. Get back to me in 7 years when my kids are grown.
That's grown, right?
Close enough.
Should we hear,
Well, the
Ron,
regu-
any interest in an officer role?
It has to be the
At
regular
this
members.
time,
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it has
In
to,
order to be,
no.
okay.
yeah, and so
Are
it's,
you regular?
I am not.
Oh, good.
I can't vote and
Yeah.
I can't take a position.
well, I mean, that's how it works.
And Doug's not even interested in the board anymore.
Doug says he's leaving, unless we can induce him to stay somehow.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed in that, Doug. I thought we got along.
We did.
Can we have you on speed dial?
Potentially.
So it's, for me, I have a loyalty to my chair. And I have a liking to have new blood. Because I remember last year in January, it was said that because I wasn't here in January and I should have stayed home tonight as well,
Where's your commitment?
I don't have one. That's what I'm saying. So I'm torn. So I'm probably not going to vote.
Come on. Come on.
I don't think this has to be so contentious. You know?
Yeah, it is. On
So-
one hand, I would love for Paul to be chair, to have new blood, to have something different, and I do like the mix of everything. And then on the other hand, is the all Italian in me is my loyalty to the chair. So I'm so conflicting right now that I just don't know what to do.
So then Alan and I will decide, because we're the only remaining
Then you're
votes.
gonna do-
So you're gonna vote for yourself, you're gonna presumably vote for yourself.
Well, is Al going to vote for himself?
Should we be doing this
and
by
she's-
secret ballot?
You're split. I already voted
I'm
for
feeling a
Paul.
lot of pressure at the moment.
So,
So
I'm
it's a
voting
split
for no.
vote. I'm the deciding vote. Do you understand that? The numbers are just clearly on the deciding vote.
So you want to go home and come back next week? We can continue it for a month.
Do we have a hat? Do we have a hat?
I think you should continue
I mean,
it for
we're
a
good
month.
at
Why don't
that
we
all
continue
night.
this for a month?
I
Seriously,
think
I
we should
mean,
continue it for a month.
Think a month's gonna help, Alan?
yes.
I think a month's a good idea.
Well, what does it hurt to have a month?
everyone really think about what role you want to serve in.
I think a month's a good idea.
And then
I-
someone
I-
else that's a new board member will be a voting member and not me,
Nathan will be.
because I won't be there.
Actually, Nathan is next in line.
Are you
He
suggesting
was-
you're not serving out your appointment?
No, he just
That's
resigned.
right.
This is his last meeting.
That's
what
what I
he just said.
suggested, yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Nathan is next in line by 2 weeks.
All right.
Well, I
so
could resign,
in-
too.
In all seriousness, I've heard a lot of different things tonight. There's actually a lot for me to digest. I was not expecting to hear as many things as I heard, so maybe we should just continue this. I'd like to actually think about it, if that's okay.
Okay.
Can I just have one last comment?
I'm in-
Just a perspective.
Yeah,
I chair the cable board in town.
yeah, great board.
And, yeah, and when the previous chairman sadly passed away, we needed a new chairman.
Yeah.
And everybody tried to run away from that job as fast as they possibly could.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's
I was
very.
on that board years ago. I was telling you when I was.
That's
in high
right, when you were
school.
but a lad, yeah.
That was a
Yeah,
great board.
it's very refreshing to see two people actually want to be the chairman of the board. So I actually commend both of you for that, because I just didn't see that. I took it by default, all right?
Me too.
And I'm sure you.
So I appreciate the sentiment of both of you of doing the job.
Thank you.
Well, to be fair, Ron, since you haven't been around, I've been running from talking about being chair since probably my second year on. So I appreciate running from the chair. I've just stopped running.
Lex got tired? Old age.
Well, I appreciate everything I've heard tonight. I'd like to.
Something to define me.
I'd like to think about a couple of things, if that's okay with everybody, based on some things that I've heard and reflect on it. And maybe if we're okay taking it up in February. If that's okay with you.
Amen, brother.
Let's take it.
I'll make a motion to continue the voting of
Yeah,
the
that's
chair
great.
position.
So you will not be here for the February vote then? So does that mean that Nathan will get filled in?
I don't know.
If they appoint.
I will not be here either for the February.
I'm gonna be sick on February.
I gotta wash my hair in February.
I'm having a baby, so
Well,
You look fabulous.
Oh, you're not gonna be here in February?
skinny jeans.
I told you already I'm not gonna be here in
Oh,
February.
yeah, I don't remember. Okay. All right, well, whatever.
I'm gonna be in Pompano, Florida.
Interesting.
You can have an absentee ballot.
Okay.
We'll sign it and seal it.
There you go.
If everyone's gonna be gone in February, you realize that you have to do this tonight.
I think I might be going in February, to be honest with you. It sounds like a good idea.
Very warm down in Florida. I got a big place. You're all
I
welcome.
think I might.
I'm not making a decision.
I don't mind coming.
Yeah.
Need a vacation.
Let's do this in February.
Yeah. All right, Chapeletta?
There is a Chapeletta.
Did you put the motion up there? I think it's second, we all agreed, February, yeah? Good.
I agreed. I agree. And there was a Chapeletta dated December the 22nd. I don't know where it went, but it's in here.
Right here?
Right here.
With respect to the owners of an affordable unit at Oak Ridge Village.
Yep.
Okay. And there you have it.
Motion to adjourn?
You okay with the motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Again, we agree, huh?
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.